Okay, so picture this, right? It's 1969, the whole world's watching, and you've got these two guys about to do what's never been done before.
Land on the moon.
Exactly, land on the moon. But imagine, just for a second, what if it had gone wrong? Like,
Yeah.
really wrong.
Well, it almost did, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Nixon's team, they had this speech ready just in case.
Oh, wow.
A real somber one, too, you know, acknowledging the potential disaster. He never had to give it, thankfully, but it really shows you just how risky this whole thing was.
Yeah, absolutely. This wasn't just like, a fun trip to space. This was like the Cold War,
Oh, yeah, big time.
like playing out on this huge cosmic stage.
The U.S. versus the USSR, you know, huge stakes.
Yeah,
The moon landing, it became this symbol, right? National pride, technological power.
right.
But we've also got to remember where all this is happening. The 1960s.
Oh, yeah, true.
Technology was changing so fast. I mean, computers, rockets, the materials they were using, it was mind-blowing. Like every field was just leaping forward.
Yeah. Well, that actually brings us to our guest today.
Oh, right.
He's not just, a famous actor.
Right.
He's also a total space nut.
Huge fan.
Yeah, Tom Hanks.
Hey.
So, Tom, you grew up during all this,
I
right?
did, yeah.
What was it like seeing all this space stuff happening, like, as a kid?
Oh, man, it was electric.
Dude.
Like, seriously electric. I was glued to the TV for every launch, every mission.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the science or the engineering either, though that stuff was cool too. It just, like, this feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Anything felt possible. Everyone was so optimistic about the future. It was contagious.
Yeah, I get that.
You know, you can almost feel that optimism, especially with Apollo 8.
Oh, yeah.
The first time we actually sent people to orbit the moon,
That was huge. Yeah.
and it was on Apollo 8 that we got to see Earth, you know, from space for the first time, really. Like this tiny blue marble hanging in the blackness.
Yep.
Millions saw that image. It changed everything how we saw ourselves, our place in the universe. And then there's Apollo 10.
Oh, yeah.
It's so
Almost flew right up to the moon, tested the lunar module, everything. But they didn't land.
What? So close.
I know. Talk about a tease, right?
Seriously. Like, can you imagine being that close and having to turn back?
Well, Apollo 10, it was like the dress rehearsal for Apollo 11. Absolutely crucial.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, you've got to wonder what those astronauts were feeling. So close, yet so far. It must have been a real roller coaster. The discipline they had, amazing.
I think I would have been like banking on the door. Let me out. Let me on the moon.
Well, they were all super competitive, that's for sure. Each one of them wanted to be the first to step foot on the moon.
Of course.
But there's this great story about Charles Lindbergh, you know?
Yeah.
The first guy to fly solo across the Atlantic.
Okay.
He visited the Apollo 8 crew, and he told them, you guys, you're the ones making history. Leaving Earth's gravity, that's the real achievement.
Wow.
And he was right.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget that part, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just about landing. It was about breaking free from Earth, going where no human had ever gone before.
Exactly. And that leads us to Michael Collins, well, some people call him the forgotten astronaut of Apollo 11.
Oh, yeah.
While Armstrong and Aldrin were walking on the moon, he was up there orbiting all alone, had to make sure they got back safe.
Wow.
Can you imagine the pressure? I mean, he even trained for the possibility of, you know, having to come back alone if the lunar module failed.
Gee.
Heavy stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible when you think about it. All that planning, all that training to make sure nothing went wrong.
Right. But even with all that, the actual landing, man, talk about a nail biter.
Oh, yeah. Edge of your seat stuff.
You know, you really have to see it in that movie, First Man, to really get it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, you see the lunar module, and it's not like some fancy spaceship. You know,
No, not at all.
pretty primitive, actually.
It's amazing when you think about it. Landing this thing with basically like a shadow and some dust to guide them.
That's cool.
It was real seat of the pants flying, that's for sure.
Wow. But it's not all like, science and tech, right?
No, absolutely not.
There's this real human side to it, too.
Oh, for sure.
Like when Buzz Aldrin took communion on the moon.
Yeah.
That always gets me.
A private moment of faith in this completely alien world
It's pretty powerful.
shows you no matter where we go, we bring our humanity with us.
For sure. And, of course, we can't forget the words, right?
What do you mean?
One small step for man.
One giant leap for mankind.
Shills every time.
I know, right? It's a quote that's been, analyzed to death.
Right, yeah.
But it's simple, and it just it perfectly captures the whole thing, the magnitude of it all.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, right, what was going through Armstrong's head at that moment?
I mean, the whole world is watching the pressure, the years of work leading up to this.
Right.
And he comes up with that. A few perfect words. Incredible.
Yeah.
Talk about a way with words.
For real.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't just a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Apollo 12, they landed too. Showed everyone it wasn't a fluke.
Exactly. They proved it could be done again.
And then you have Apollo 13.
Man.
Talk about a close call.
A real nail biter.
Showed everyone how tough these astronauts were. I mean, talk about ingenuity, resilience.
Oh, yeah. Under pressure.
Tom, you actually played Jim Lovell, right? The commander
I did, yeah.
in that movie, Apollo 13.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like, getting into his head during that whole crisis?
It was amazing. Really gave me a new respect for these guys, I mean, they're facing disaster, certain death almost, and they
Right.
don't panic. They just work the problem, step by step, focusing on what they can control. Amazing training, discipline, teamwork.
Unbelievable.
It's that focus, that makes them so incredible.
Totally. And they didn't stop there.
No, they kept going.
The later missions, they had lunar rovers, longer stays on the moon, more and more focus on science.
It's interesting how that shifted, from just getting there to actually trying to understand the moon.
Oh, yeah.
For example, did you know almost everything we know about lunar geology, like 90%,
Wow.
comes from the rocks Armstrong collected on Apollo 11
Really?
in just 2 hours?
It's amazing how much we learned in such a short time.
It is, and it makes you think there's still so much more to discover.
Totally. But they didn't just bring back rocks.
Oh, right. They left some stuff behind, too. Some pretty interesting things, actually.
Like what?
Well, like Charlie Duke, he was on Apollo 16.
Yeah.
And he left a family photo on the moon.
Really?
Yeah. Just a simple picture, but it's kind of profound, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's like even out there in this vast emptiness of space, we still need to feel connected.
Totally. That photo, it's probably all bleached out by now,
Yeah.
from the sun.
Yeah.
But it's still there, like a little time capsule of human emotion.
Wow. What else did they leave up there?
Well, there's a Bible on the lunar rover and a small sculpture to remember the astronauts who died.
Oh, wow.
It's like a tiny museum on the moon waiting for someone to find it.
That's amazing. It's like a testament,
Yeah.
to human ambition, our ingenuity, our vulnerability too.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about now?
Mm.
Are we going back?
Seems like it.
Yeah, right? I mean, everyone's talking about going back to the moon, all these countries, private companies. It's like a new space race.
It really is.
Tom, what do you think about all this new push to get back up there?
Oh, I think it's great. Exciting times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different this time, It's not just like a competition between countries. It's more like everyone's working together. Plus, we've got all this new technology, reusable spacecraft, stuff like that.
Right.
And we're realizing the moon, it's got resources.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Well, helium-3, for one.
Helium-3.
Yeah, it's this potential energy source.
Really?
Yeah, it could be huge.
I've heard about that.
It's amazing stuff. Helium-3 fusion could, change everything, how we power the world.
Wow.
Clean energy, tons of it. Of course, it's still early days, Lots of challenges.
Yeah, I bet.
But the potential is there.
It's like science fiction coming true.
It is, kind of.
But it's not just about resources, is it? I mean, why are we going back?
Well, I think it's that, that basic human need to explore, to push the limits.
Yeah.
The moon, it's right there. Our next door neighbor, cosmically speaking. And it's a stepping stone to the rest of the universe.
That's a good way to put it.
It's the next logical step in our journey
Yeah.
of, exploring space.
Absolutely. And it's not just about planting flags anymore, right?
No, definitely not.
It's about science,
Research,
learning how to live in space.
testing new technologies.
Yeah.
Like the Artemis mission.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that.
That's NASA's plan, to actually live on the moon.
Yeah.
Like a permanent base. They're talking about developing life support systems, testing technologies for going to Mars. It's a huge project.
Ambitious for sure.
And it's not just governments doing it either. You've got private companies, SpaceX, Blue Origin, all these guys.
So it's like a whole new kind of space race.
In a way, yeah.
Man, it feels like we're on the verge of something really big, like another giant leap.
It does, doesn't it?
But before we get too carried away, let's talk about, Apollo.
Yeah.
What do you think its legacy is, Tom?
Well, I think it showed us what we can do when we all work together.
Towards a common goal.
Right. All that ingenuity, determination, all focused on one thing. It inspired a whole generation of scientists, engineers, dreamers.
Yeah.
And it gave us a new way of looking at ourselves, our place in the universe.
Powerful stuff. But it also makes you wonder, right, what's next?
What is the next giant leap?
Exactly. Is it Mars? A moon base? Something we haven't even thought of yet.
Who knows? That's the thing about exploration, isn't it? You never know what you're going to find until you go looking.
That's true.
The Apollo missions, they opened up a whole universe of possibilities. And it's up to us to, keep going, keep exploring.
Well said. And if you want to learn more about Apollo, check out the Moonwalkers exhibit. It's narrated by our guest today, Mr. Tom Hanks.
Thanks for having me.
It's a really amazing experience, super immersive, makes you feel like you're right there on the moon.
And for us, we'll be back soon with another deep dive. We're going to be talking about helium-3 and its potential as an energy source.
Can't wait. Until then, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep exploring.